Taking a lightning ride with yours truly on this very first episode of the Mark ARSENO Lightning Rider podcast is Grammy Award winning label executive, Guns N' Roses original manager, and most recently, book author. Please welcome Vicky Hamilton.
Hey,
Long overdue. Long
how's it
overdue.
going?
Very good. We've been
I'm
talking.
excited to be on the Virgin ride here.
The Virgin ride, yeah, because we're breaking the ice with you. You're always the first in everything, right? I mean, your story
I always say that I like being first, so
you like
I
being
guess,
first.
I guess you got that memo.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, I want to start by saying congratulations on your 23 years of sobriety. I've
Oh,
been there
thank you.
myself. I'm going on 27 myself. So, how
Wow.
does it feel to be clear-headed in this new decade, this new millennium, and all the stuff that you're accomplishing right now with Dark Spark and everything?
I don't think there is another way, not for me anyway. I'd probably be dead if I wasn't sober.
Where do you see yourself right now? Are you always in the now, here in the present moment? Are you always this clear-headed, or does it take a while every day to recenter yourself? Or do you visualize it all? Do you any?
I sometimes get too far out there in the future, and then I gotta like reel it back in,
Right.
I try and stay present, but not always easy.
Because it's sort of your character, right? Your psychological makeup. You're always ahead of the curve. Basically, you're that kind of
I try.
person, right? Hustling all the time and stuff. So you got to be on the ball all the time. So it's a great pleasure talking to you, Vicky. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to Indiana, where it all started. Because I mean, before you became this sort of fairy godmother of the Sunset Strip, you were actually writing for an Indiana newspaper, weren't you?
Yeah, I wrote for a free rag called the Three Rivers Review.
And what did you do? Did you do the art section or?
No, I wrote interviews. It's like I stalked Tom Petty. He told me I look like a California girl, and that kind of started my ride into moving to Los Angeles. But yeah.
So what happened first, the cocktail waitress or the licorice pizza record store?
Well, actually, I cocktailed at Gazzari's, the Starwood,
Oh my
and
God.
so my first one was at oh gosh, what was the country bar? The Palomino.
The Palomino. Okay.
Yeah, I only lasted like a week there. It's like I wasn't fast enough for them.
Were you waitressing at the Gazzari's bar when VH were actually starting out?
No. I at one point tried to like put David Lee Roth and Noel Monk on the guest list to come see what turned out to be Striper. They were called Rock's Regime at the time, but Bill Gazzari's like, "You're dangerous. You want to like run my club." I'm like, "Oh, come on, those two guys coming into the club are going to bring like a whole posse of people. So how can you lose with that, But yeah, it was dangerous.
Dangerous Vicky. Let's go back to Indiana for a minute and the Tom Petty story. What were you covering? Was he on tour for Damn the Torpedoes, or which era was it?
Damn the Torpedoes. And
wow.
We rolled into town and said to the guy at the gas station, "Where's the nicest hotel in town?" Until we like tracked down the tour bus, And I was like waiting for him to get on the tour bus. But what I didn't know, he was on the tour bus and got off. And my girlfriend turns to me and goes, "It's like now or never." So I run off the bus or run out of the car and grab him by the arm. I was like, "Can I interview you?" And he's like, "Well, sure. Come on up to my room." Basically, it was like, my dream come true.
I often wondered if you were the American Girl from the song. Actually, were you? Do you know?
No, I think that was pre that. So
Pre that? Okay.
yeah. Unfortunately, Although there's that song about the girl at Market Square, and I sometimes wonder if I influenced that, but
Ah, there you go. So what prompted you to actually so Tom Petty says you got the California girl look, you should go to LA. I mean, you shine, whatever he told. What exactly were his words to
he
you?
just said you look like a California
Yeah.
girl, and that was kind of all it took, and he introduced me to John Scott, who like broke his record at radio, and I'm still friends with John Scott today. It's like when I moved to LA, I only knew like 3 people in town. So
And who were the three people? Anybody famous
there
or?
was a nurse named Wendy who lived in Marina Del Rey that let me like come stay with her when I first came out to visit, and like John Scott and Tom Petty, that was about it. So
So, okay, so fast forward, you move to LA, you get the gig at Gazzari's and stuff, and then the licorice pizza record store. Funny enough, you started in a record store just like me. I started in a record store as well, and I met all these
I worked in
fabulous
the record store in Indiana too.
as
It was
well.
a place
Slash
called
did as well,
Apple
right?
Records.
Right. Slash,
Slash, yeah, Slash worked at Tower, and Axel worked at Tower Video too. So we all
absolutely
had our
amazing.
we all had our time on the Sunset Strip in retail.
So that's where you
Always
act.
a fun time around Christmas, when people come in and go, "Do you know that song?" And they like try and sing it to you, and you're like, digging through the phonologue to like try and find it.
So you meet Nikki Six in that record
Yeah.
store. How does
Yes.
that happen?
They were living in an apartment on Clark Street, which was up the hill from the Licorice Pizza store. My record store was like catty corner from the Whiskey A Go Go. I kept
Right.
on seeing like Nikki and Tommy and Vince walking up the hill in like these, stiletto hills and stuff. And I was like, who are these guys? It was like, we were just like, it was at that point in time, like in 81, it was like pretty punk rock on
Punk
the
rock
street.
was king,
So
right? The Knack, Power
it was
Pop.
like you see these glam rockers, you're like, what the hey, what's going on here,
So you didn't know. Were they like more New York Dolls? Or are they more like a glammy sort of like punky band? Well, they were both really. When you listen to Too Fast for
Yeah,
Love, they were
they're kind of
combined.
both. I mean, I like to say that they I thought that they must be crazy or brilliant, and it turns out they were a little of both.
Little of both, right? What did you think of that release when you heard it first time?
Um,
Could you
you
see
know,
that far ahead in the future?
this was actually pre Too Fast for Love. It was, they only had like a couple of singles.
Toast of the Town, I believe, right? The
Yeah,
45.
it was just right before the leather record release of Too Fast for Love is when I got on the team, and I did a bunch of display merchandising for them, and
Window display.
like took some meetings for record companies and stuff. Never mind, I didn't really know anyone yet, but
So let me get this straight. Right now, are you actually acting as a consultant for them back then?
yeah,
Are they
I
paying
had a
you to do this, or you
manager.
just
Well, supposedly, like I think they gave me one check, and then they still owe me like 3 grand. 3 grand
wow?
and a lot of interest would be a lot of money at this point, right?
Yeah, but they actually had a manager back then, right? Alan Kaufman.
Yeah, Alan Kaufman.
What
Yeah.
was that like dealing with that guy? He was from construction or something. He was not
Yeah,
an industry insider.
yeah, he didn't really know. Um, but I did my best to like help him, and it's like the show that Tom Zutaut saw that he went to at the Whiskey. It was like he saw my display at Licorice Pizza across the street, and I think that kind of prompted him to go inside. So
So describe the scene at the time with Motley Crue. There was London before that, right? Because Nicky was sort of
yeah.
like a local legend, right? He was like a local legend. And had you heard of him back then at that point?
Yeah, when I was out here just, for a visit, I saw London play at the Starwood. So,
What did you think?
I mean, they weren't that good initially, but they were fun to look at. So,
You could not foresee in any way that Nicky would become the man he is today,
No, I thought he would.
entrepreneur.
I
And
mean, he had that total it factor. I mean,
right,
never mind that he wasn't like a great musician yet, but
he looked like one.
he looked like one,
Yeah,
Sometimes that's
absolutely.
all it takes,
And then
that
they all started
fake it
looking.
till you make it sort of thing.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But they all started looking like Motley after a while.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So they became, flavor of the month, or saveur du jour, as they say in French. So that was like a whole plethora of pseudo Motley Crue bands out there. Like, first one that comes to mind, you have something to do with them, is Poison. Although they weren't exactly like Motley, they were poppier.
Yeah.
That first record was absolutely amazing, Vicky, and you had something to do with that, right?
The Poison record
The
or the
Poison, well,
yeah.
actually hooking Poison to the
Yeah,
record company.
yeah, I was Poison's first manager, and they had done a demo deal with Atlantic Records, and they had passed on them, but I introduced them to Wes Hine, and they signed with Enigma, and ultimately got that deal at Capitol Records. But yeah, that's where it started for them.
You never had any desire to actually manage them or anything. You just,
I did manage them for a year.
for a year. So that's
Yeah.
it. They took off because of you, basically. Same as
Well, I
Faster,
don't
right?
know. I don't know. I think they would have made it ultimately. Poison was very driven, and they didn't have like a plan B. They were going to make it with or without me, basically. But
They were
I
just looking.
definitely helped them in their early days.
Yeah, you were like a fairy godmother of the Sunset Strip. Do you get that a lot, or that's? I always
Um,
pictured you like that, reading in
yeah,
magazines
I
and as a
think
kid.
that's part of it, and the metal maven and all that kind of crap. But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
I've gotten a little more savvy about business in my later years, but yeah.
well, to me, you just
I
seemed
used
like
to
a
even put on the BAM ads, babysitter.
babysitter. Well, okay, let's get to that. Okay, fast forward a couple of years later, a young Axl Rose and I believe it was Izzy Stradlin. They
Yeah.
showed up at your apartment, I think, and they never left, right?
I was like I worked at an agency, and I was a booking agent, and that's where they showed up initially. And
With a demo.
yeah. And I booked them sight unseen. I mean, it was like really good. So, and I put
Solely
them
on the music.
with like Striper and Black Sheep, which was Slash's band. And
Slash.
when they were like Hollywood Rose. They weren't yet Guns N' Roses, but they had, 3 or 4 songs that ended up on Appetite. So
Or
yeah.
back off. Was it Back Off Bitch and Paradise City, and was it Think
Yeah.
About You, the
Yeah.
demo?
Yeah.
So
That's
did you could you actually tell there was going to be like an iconic band at this point, or you can't really tell because it's just good
No, I
song,
knew
good.
that they were going to be huge. I mean, they were
You knew.
they were like different than all the glammy bands on the strip at the time, and felt a little more dangerous. And at that point in time, everything had gotten so like glammy that it had to go somewhere else.
They were exciting, that's for sure. I remember when that record came out, Vicky. That summer, I think it was Faster Pussycat, the first Poison, Guns N' Roses. I believe in my head it's the same summer, or maybe there's like a year in between. But those were magical days for glam rock, glam metal, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, yeah,
The golden period, actually. I'm
right.
that demographic right here. So I remember very well. That's why I used to read about you all the time, which is blowing my mind right now talking to you right here. You're in LA and I'm in
Yeah.
Montreal. It's absolutely amazing. And the fact that we actually have somebody in common that we know, the 6 degrees of separation thing is absolute. Are you familiar with that?
Astrid Young, or
Astrid, yeah.
yeah. That's funny.
That's
When I couldn't reach you earlier, I texted her. I was like, "Do you have his number?" He didn't like send me a link yet.
you know what? I don't carry a cell phone anymore.
Oh, really?
I gave up on the cell phone. Yeah, no, I don't want to be found when I'm not home. But sorry about the delay there.
Wow.
But so we'll get back to Astrid later on because it's just an
Yeah, I
amazing,
just put out her first single.
produced by Eddie Kramer.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, let's talk about it now then. Okay, let's
Yeah,
talk
why
about this.
not? Yeah.
Those who don't know, Astrid Young is actually Neil Young's sister, but she always downplays this, and she's right to do so because she's an excellent singer songwriter. She's a great performer. She's a stellar guitar player. And what initially attracted you to her new material? Because you knew her from the '80s, right?
Yeah, I liked her stuff in the 80s. I went to a lot of her shows. I mean, she had sort of a, I don't know, I'd like to say a Kate Bush sort of vibe about her. I mean, she's not like Neil Young at all.
No,
It's
not at all.
completely different, you know. And she's got this song Lay Me Down Like an Empty Dress, and that's the one I put out. I mean, I think it's really great. I hope, it gets some placements and things.
So basically, right now you're plugging the singles, right? If
Yeah.
I'm following you on Instagram, this is what I see, like Lovely World. Are you handling the Cox?
I am handling the Cox.
That's a crazy
Uh,
question.
not
It's actually
not
a name.
physically, but yeah.
She's handling the Cox, ladies and gents.
You
How is
know,
that though? The single.
The Cox are a great band. They're really a lot of fun. It's a gay lead singer, and all their songs are pretty much about Cox. I'm trying to get them on Cocktober with Howard Stern right now, and we're making a little
Oh yeah.
progress. I'm hoping that will happen because no band is more deserving. And they have a new album that's about to come out, and I'm throwing a huge Halloween party on actual Halloween.
Where are you doing this?
At Lucky Strike at Hollywood and Highland, like right in Hollywood, and it's like a free show, so it's gonna be like a madhouse. It's like Krista Flaga, who's like great, sort of like a new Marilyn Manson, and then Mother Wind, who is a band that I manage, who I
Yes, I've
think
heard
are
them.
maybe the next big thing. They're like really a great band. And the Cox, and then Teenage Werewolves, who are fantastic. They're Cramps cover band, but it's like a really great show. And then a band from Hollywood called Haunted is like going to close the night out, and they're like really cool too.
Right
It's
on. Do you find that
and
these new bands are listening more to you than I mean, in the early days, I mean, it was complete chaos with Guns N' Roses. Those guys were like, you were babysitting basically, right? They
yeah,
stayed at your house for like 6 months, right?
yeah, they sure did.
That's
It was
intensive.
supposed to be a couple days, and it ended up being
Right.
like a half a year, and then I got evicted, and whatever. The rest is history. But
But the rest is history. But you also have an amazing, amazing karma because I mean, you got a job
from
out
your
of
lips to like God's ears. But yeah, I think
because
that karma's still coming, right?
it is. I think the best is yet to come for you. No kidding. I honestly think that I've been watching you go and plugging all this new music and stuff, and you still have that fire, that passion, and now that you're clear headed, I mean, it's even more spectacular. I mean, to watch you go, you
But
know?
as far as the bands listening,
Yeah.
yes and no. It's like they will listen, but it's kind of like an AA meeting. They take what they like and leave the rest.
Right.
And it should be like that, because it's their career, not.
Absolutely. But
But
most of your artists handle their own career, right? You're solely like a label and a distributor, right?
yeah, I have a record label that
Dark
is
Spark.
distributed. Yes, Dark Spark Music, which
Mm-hmm.
is distributed through the Orchard, which is Sony. And I release mostly singles. I have the capacity to do albums and things, but I find that it's, like a 60s market right now.
It
It's like
is.
more about the single. It's like if you release a whole album, it's like it's all gonna burn up like within a month. So
Yeah.
why not put
Yeah.
out a new single every month and
Get
give
some
the
bookings happening solely on the
give it
singles.
some longevity.
Absolutely. Well, your name carries a lot of weight, so they'd better listen to you. Honestly, let's go
Sometimes
back.
it's like I've got a DJ slash, like I'm doing like an R&B sort of dance project thing with this guy Sergio Risque, and that's like new for me, so that's like fun. And I just picked up this great young band called Bluebell Smiles. I mean, they're amazing, and the singer sounds like Jeff Buckley,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like really smooth as silk, this music. So I can't like wait to put that out either.
When is this coming out?
Um, Rick Parker just like mixed their single Rose, and going to be putting it up on the board in the next week or so. So, I'm thinking it's going to come around Halloween.
Good, good. We'll be on the
Yeah.
lookout for that. Going back to the Guns N' Roses signing, I was talking about your karma. What I meant to say was actually, you got great karma because not only did you get them signed, but you also got a job at Geffen Records.
Yeah,
Was
it's
that
true.
was that
I learned a lot, you
yeah?
know.
Was that bittersweet though? Letting go GNR to actually get the paycheck and the stability, and was that
Um,
heart wrenching for
I
you? Or?
tried really hard to hang on to them as a
Yeah.
manager, but at that point in time, it was like a very male dominant corporate world. And, you know, we took a meeting with Doc McGee and Doug Thaler,
Oh
and
my God.
Doug Thaler was like one of my mentors. And after the meeting, like they were nodding out at the conference table. And Doug walked me outside, and he's goes, Vicky, I love you. I love this band, but we have Motley Crue here. We don't
Well,
we
yeah.
don't really need another one of these. So,
So they passed on GNR. They
yeah,
actually passed on Guns N' Roses. Oh,
yeah.
oh, oh my God. So what did you take from that experience, and how did you incorporate it in the new like reality, which is Dark Spark?
Well, before I worked at Geffen, I didn't really have any kind of clue about how a record company worked. I mean, a record company is, for the most part, a corporation. There's like an A&R department, a legal department, a marketing department, a press department, a publishing department, international touring. When I worked at Geffen, there was like 258 employees. It was like
Wow.
the big record business at that point in time.
Right.
Now most record companies don't have that many employees.
You don't need any really.
No, well, I don't know. I'd like to see it go back to a time where you can like really develop artists.
Yeah.
I find that the development really falls on managers now, and like particularly managers that have record labels like myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Ian McAndrew, who manages the Arctic Monkeys, told me, if want to keep signing new acts, you need to like start a label so that you can get some traction going with these acts.
Right.
It took
Uh,
me like a year to put together this deal with the Orchard, and finally, I'm like 4 years into it, and I feel like I finally have a clue what this new record business looks like playlisting kind of rules the day. And when I did A&R Geffen, everybody knew my name and
yeah.
knew to send me tapes and all that. But with playlisting, it's kind of a secret society. So it's like you have to find out who these people are and like get their attention somehow.
Right. And one person you got the attention from was June Carter Cash. Now that's pretty amazing. That is, and you're not, when we think about Vicky Hamilton, the first thing that comes to mind for me, being an 80s kid and everything, the Sunset Strip, man, the hair
Right.
bands and the whole glam rock and, the golden years, man.
June used to like to go around and tell people, "Oh, I'll be no problem for her." She like used to handle Guns N' Roses.
Right.
It's like I loved her to death. I miss her and Johnny a lot. They were like really, really great human beings. And
Absolutely.
for me, it was such an honor. Like, when I worked Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses, Poison, Faster Pussycat, all those bands, they were like baby bands when I like worked with them. I worked with Johnny Cash and June Carter after they were
Legends. Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah.
And people were just like dropping by their studio, or that were like famous. And I'd be like, this is like Nashville royalty right here.
Did you ever
And
even imagine something like that would happen to you? Were you a fan of Johnny
I
Cash?
just like yes, I love Johnny
Yeah.
Cash, and
And
how
June, of
that
course.
came together was
Yeah.
I was managing a band called the Freewheelers that were on American Records, and I got them to open for Johnny Cash at the House of Blues, and you know, standing at the bar with my friend Brian Lowry, and we're talking to Tom Petty and Rick Rubin, and I was like, oh my God, that was so phenomenal. And June Carter was like so amazing. And Rick Rubin like looked at me and he's like, you should make her record. I was like, I don't know anything about country music. He's like, oh no, you're the coal miner's daughter. You should make that record.
Absolutely.
And then she started like sort of stalking me. I was working at Neil Young's management company, Lookout, at that point in time. And, she invited me to her friend Rosemary's house for tea. And I went and I just fell in love with her. And I was just like, I got to make this record somehow, you know?
And she won a Grammy for that.
Yeah. I mean,
You all
It
did, basically. It's a
was
team
like
effort.
the only record I put out on Small Hairy Dog, which was the name she loved that I came up with, and I named it that after my Chihuahua. But and it won a Grammy. It was phenomenal.
So at
So
what point do you actually sit down and say, I got to write a memoir? This is like a crazy life I'm living. I got to write it down. Was there any particular reason? I mean, apart from,
I always knew that I wanted to write a book, and
yeah,
even when I was like working at Geffen, they tried to put something in my contract saying that they would have ownership. Anything. I was like, oh no, no,
what?
no. I'm gonna write a book, so that's got to go.
How
Um,
hard was it to actually, recollect all the memories and everything?
I
Did you
did
ask some
something
friends?
really smart. I did something really smart, which if you're thinking about writing a book, this is totally the way to go. As time goes on, I had a little tape recorder and I told the tape recorder stories about all
Oh
the
yeah.
different bands, and I would have forgot a lot of it, if I hadn't have done that. Like I had completely forgotten that Bobby Daw like had took a shit into a Cheerio box and sent it to the guy at the LA Weekly. But that was like the funniest thing ever when it
Because of a
happened.
review, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause he said that it didn't seem like Poison had been eating their Cheerios, and he's like, I'll show him who's eating Cheerios.
I'll give you some Cheerios. Cheerio, motherfucker. All right. So what's next for you, Vicky? I mean, it
Um,
feels like a whole new beginning for you. I mean, it's
I've got a whole stable of bands that I'm working right now. I have Dark Spark Records. I'm trying to turn my book into a series or a movie, and there's
right.
some interest there. So,
Are you in talks with anybody right now, or
I'm in talks with 3 different companies at the moment, and I'm
let's get
trying
this
to
on
stay
Paramount?
open-minded and like figure it out. I've been here before with other companies, so it's hard to get excited. Like,
Yeah.
they come on really strong and then they just like disappear, so you never know what's going to happen. But it kind
Right.
of feels like it might happen this time. So,
But your name is circulating once again, with the I Want to Rock miniseries and
yeah, did
everything.
you see that?
I haven't yet. It's on Paramount,
Okay.
right? I got to get
Yeah.
Paramount just to see that. Is it good? Any good?
It's
I hear
really
good
good.
stuff.
I was like really happy with it, and I totally love the director, Tyler Minson. He really got my story, and out of all the like docu-series and MTV and VH1 and all that stuff I've ever done, I find this one to be like dead on. Like it's like the real story.
Right, right.
So it was an honor to do that. And they recorded it over like 4 years. It wasn't like I did one interview. It's like I did
Well,
four
this is
interviews.
pre-pandemic, really, eh?
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, right. How did you manage during the pandemic? How was that for you? Did you get
Um,
creative?
I
Because a lot of
hated
people,
it. I mean, I was stuck in my little apartment in Hollywood and whatever, and the neighborhood pretty much turned to shit during that time period. It's like I moved out of Hollywood. I'm, on the east side now and much happier. Nothing ever happens here. It's boring. I like boring. I
you
like to
like
be
boring.
I like to be able to sleep at night and not worry that, I'm gonna get robbed or whatever,
Right, right.
or that
Well,
my mail's gonna get stolen or God knows what, so.
well, Vicky, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I adored talking to you.
I enjoyed talking with you. I mean, I thought we were gonna maybe go deeper and like talk about our American Indian roots here. It's like
Well,
have that
that's
going on, but
next time for
um,
sure, man.
yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not going to take any more of your time. We got to go. Just before we go, though, the book is called Appetite for Dysfunction. Are you still signing the book?
Yeah, I am. You can buy it on my website at VickyHamilton.com, and I'll sign it to you and send it off. There's also I have an audio book that's out there on all
You
the
did
audio
that. Yeah,
things.
right.
Yeah,
You did
I did
that.
that over Christmas, and there's like a new chapter in there. So yeah.
Stellar. All the best to you.
Best to you. It was great to like
And
have a real conversation instead of like texting to you. So
absolutely, we'll keep that going. And Astrid and I should be recording a duet. I don't know if she told you that. We'll be recording a duet. I'll let you hear it for sure.
that's awesome.
Cool. Thank you, Vicky.
Of course. Let me know when it's out. I'll like post it.
All right. Thanks a lot,
All
dear.
right.
Take care.
Cool. Talk to you later.
Our
Bye.
guest today has been Vicky Hamilton. I'm Mark Arsenault. This has been the Mark Arsenault Lightning Rider podcast on CNV America. Until next time.